When I graduated high school and turned 18, I got my own apartment. This was back in 1987. And this video is going to cover, would somebody graduating high school today have that same option, have that same opportunity to get their own place? How hard would it be? And do some comparison of the numbers, 1987 versus 2025. So we're going to get into it. First, this is the apartment. This is what's going for now. I had a studio starting at $1689. So that's starting. That's going to be like the second floor overlooking the dumpster. My studio was actually nicer, so it would actually be more, but we're going to use that number, $1689, and then we're going to get into what I paid in a bit. So first, let's check out the neighborhood a little bit. So this is the north side of Chicago. This is Sheridan and Bryn Mawr. So I'm on Sheridan right now. This is Bryn Mawr. Over here is Lakeshore Drive, and just past that, the lake. Down this way is some stores and the elevated Bryn Mawr train station on a line that used to be called the Howard Jackson Park. Now it's called the Red Line. And a few stops west is Addison, where Wrigley Field is. And then beyond that, it actually goes underground, goes from elevated to subway, going into the downtown Chicago area. And this is the apartment right here, not luxury, just an apartment. And when you look at average rents in Chicago, you'll see that what I just showed before is what the rent is for this place. Isn't anything out of the ordinary. Now let's go ahead and look at the numbers. Back then I made $5 an hour. The federal minimum wage was $3.35. If you figure average month 160 hours, that's $800. If we estimate 20% federal and state tax, that leaves me with $640. And back then that studio was $309 a month, just under half of my monthly pay. And that's a great area for public transportation. I got the Sheridan bus, I got the elevated train station, and monthly pass, unlimited, and a lot of places covered with Chicago Transit Authority, public transportation in Chicago, and including getting out to the suburbs like Evanston and Skokie. And that was $50 a month. So rent, I got a roof over my head, I got transportation for $359 a month back on 1987. Now let's compare that with 2025, and what would be comparable to $5 an hour in 87 compared to now. Now if you look at the federal minimum wage, the federal minimum wage, $5 an hour was about 50% over. Today's federal minimum wage is $7.25. That really hasn't kept up with inflation. If I go 50% over that, that's only $10.88 an hour. According to Google, $5 in 1987 is equivalent to $14.15 today. I don't believe that at all. I think it's actually more than that. Now, the Illinois state minimum wage is $15. If we take 50% over that, it's $22.05. That might be a little high. So I put the comparable pay at $20 an hour. Now, if that isn't exact comparison, it's still going to be close as far as that comparable hourly dollar amount compared to 1987. We're going to multiply that 5 times 4 to get that $20 an hour. Average hours in a month, 160. That comes to $3,200. If we estimate 20% state and federal tax, that takes us to $2,560. Now, what happened to the rent on that studio? $1,664. Actually, I think, maybe this even went up since the last time I looked at it, because now it's $1,689. Holy cow. So this has actually gone up a little bit further, but we'll still use that $1,604. Now, look at that, 63% of pay with that rent amount. Now, something that didn't go up is the CTA. That monthly pass only went up from $50 to $75 over 87 to 25. So that is really cheap for people in Chicago. Public transportation is cheap with a total of $16.79. Now, obviously, it's big to have a roof over your head, big to have transportation. So what's left? In 1987, I had $281 left. In 2025, only $881. And you haven't bought groceries, and of course, groceries have gotten crazy expensive. If you have medications that have out-of-pocket costs, you're going to have to pay that. Utilities, toiletries, any clothing, any furniture. So $881 is extremely low to only have that after rent and transportation. And if they take that $281 and they multiply it times 4 to kind of give that comparison to 2025, that number is a lot bigger, $1124. So this tells us something we already know. The poor are getting poorer because the cost of rent has gotten so high. And so that opportunity that was available for me as somebody graduating high school to be able to get my own apartment, that is not the same opportunity now. And it's not like I was living high on the hog back then. That was still stretching it. That was still very much paycheck to paycheck. You really couldn't afford to lose your job. If you lost your job, it wouldn't take long before you wouldn't be able to pay the rent. So that was still stressful. Now it's even more stressful. And we just can't keep going in this direction because it's going to cause a breakdown of our society. We're already seeing that. We're already seeing that with young people just staying with their parents longer and longer and longer, not getting married and having kids and getting their own place because they can't afford it. That's causing a breakdown. We're seeing an increase in homelessness. And really, what should that rent be in comparison? Well, let's take 309. 309 times 4, that's what we're doing. Not 1604, or actually it's higher now, but 1236. So for poor people, for them to do better, that rent's got to come down. That studio shouldn't be 1604. That studio should be 1236. Now, obviously, there's places with the lower cost of living. I'm currently in the St. Louis area. You can get a one bedroom for $1,000 a month. But in St. Louis, are you going to be making the same amount of money as you would in Chicago? And would you be able to have public transportation? Public transportation, not so good out here. And if you have to get your own car, then oh my gosh, cars are crazy expensive. So there are places where the cost of living is less, but there might be some trade-offs. But man, the rent is too damn high. How do you bring those rents down? Unfortunately, it seems a lot of well-meaning politicians pass legislation to address that, but they just wind up making it worse than it was before. So not sure what the answer is, but no, we can't keep going in this direction with the poor getting poorer. Eventually, there's going to be a breaking point, and I think we are starting to see signs of that in our society. Rent is too damn high. Well, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Please share your thoughts and your experiences. This is Jim Wall. Until next time.